My tether snapped, and for 3 full seconds I was drifting straight toward the hull of a dead royal ship with no way to stop myself. My name is Callum, and until that moment I was just a salvager trying to strip copper wire off a wreck before my oxygen ran low. The tank on my back was already down to 20%, my hands were shaking from cold, and now I had nothing under my boots but empty space and a 200-year-old warship rushing up to meet me. I threw both arms out and grabbed the first solid thing I touched. It was a flat metal panel set into the hull, dark and lifeless like everything else on that ship. My gloves hit it hard enough to jolt my shoulders, and I held on, gasping, waiting for the spin in my head to settle. Then the panel under my hands turned warm. I felt it through the gloves before I understood what was happening. A low pulse moved under my palms, steady, like something breathing after holding its breath for a very long time. Then light bled out along the hull, window after window, racing away from me in both directions until the entire ship was glowing gold against the black. I let go and pushed back so fast I nearly lost my grip on the wreck again. Every warning I had ever been taught about derelict royal ships was screaming in my head at once. Do not touch them. Do not wake them. Whatever locks they carry are older and stranger than anything we understand, and nobody who tries to force one open lives to explain how they did it. I hadn't tried to force anything. I had grabbed a handhold to save my own life, and the ship had opened for me anyway. Words scrolled across the panel in a script I didn't recognize, but my suit's translator caught up fast enough to give me a rough line before I could look away. Signature confirmed. Welcome home. My radio crackled before I could even process that. A woman's voice, sharp and controlled, cutting through my comm channel like she had been listening the entire time. Step away from that hull right now. I turned and saw a cutter dropping hard out of the dark, thrusters flaring red, closing the distance between us faster than any rescue ship should. It docked against the wreck with a clang I felt through my boots, and a figure came out through the airlock in a pressure suit the color of dried blood, moving like she already knew exactly who she meant to be furious at. She was tall, narrow through the shoulders, with skin that had a faint gray sheen under the work lights, and a second inner eyelid that flicked sideways instead of down. Her name, she told me once we were both inside her cutter and breathing shared air, was Asa. She did not offer a surname right away. She was too busy staring at me like I had just done something impossible. That ship has rejected every engineer, every royal cousin, every certified specialist in this system for 200 years, she said. My own hand has touched that panel a dozen times. Nothing. Not a light, not a sound. And you, a stranger with a broken tether, grab it by accident and it wakes up and calls you home. I told her the truth, because I didn't have anything else to offer. I said I hadn't meant to touch anything. I said I was just trying not to die. She didn't relax. If anything, that answer seemed to worry her more. We went back to the wreck together, because she refused to leave without understanding what had happened, and because my tether was still snapped and my oxygen was ticking lower by the minute. She wanted answers. I wanted a working air supply. Neither of us got what we wanted quickly. Inside, the ship was not what I expected. No throne room, no grand hall, nothing built for show. Just narrow corridors lit gold, humming quietly, adjusting their light to follow my footsteps instead of hers, no matter how close she stayed to me. I watched her notice that and say nothing about it, though her jaw tightened every time it happened. We found the core near the center of the ship, a small chamber holding one console and a column of light that turned out to be a genealogy record, stretching back further than her empire itself. She read it in silence for a long moment before her voice came out different, quieter, almost unsteady. The warden line, she said. I was taught they died out. Every royal child on my world is taught that. A line of protectors bonded to this ship generations before my family ever sat on a throne, chosen not for strength, not for rank, but for one single trait. They would tell the truth even when it cost them everything, and they would stay when leaving would have been safer. Every ship this dynasty ever built was keyed to their blood, so that no matter how corrupt the court became, someone honest could always get back in. I asked what happened to them. Exiled, she said. 11 generations ago, during the wars over succession. A line that answered to the ship before it answered to the crown was too dangerous for whoever was sitting on the throne at the time. We were taught to feel relieved they were gone. Relieved. She looked at me then, and I watched the pieces click into place behind her eyes. Your species wasn't even known to us when the wardens vanished, she said. But there were ships from that exile that were never accounted for. Colonies that went dark and were never found again. If one of them kept moving long enough, far enough, it could have ended up somewhere nobody in my system ever thought to search. I didn't have time to answer, because that was the moment the ship shuddered under both our feet. Every light in the corridor snapped from gold to red at once. A low alarm rose through the hull, rising and falling in a pattern I didn't need a translator to understand. Asa grabbed the edge of the console to steady herself and swore in a language I didn't know. "Debris field," she said. "The wreck is drifting into the collision zone. This whole section of the boneyard shifts every few years, and this ship has had no active shielding for 2 centuries. The floor shook again, harder this time, and somewhere above us metal groaned like it was being twisted. "We need to reach the cutter," she said, already moving. "If the outer hull breaches, the pressure difference will tear us apart before we even feel it happen." We ran. The corridors that had glowed gently under my footsteps now strobed red, and twice the ship lurched hard enough to throw me into a wall. Asa moved fast despite the suit, faster than I expected, guiding us through turns she had clearly never walked before, trusting instinct and the emergency lighting more than any memory of the ship's layout, because she had never truly been inside it until today. A support beam gave way just ahead of us, crashing down and sealing the corridor we needed. Asa stopped so fast I nearly ran into her back. For a second neither of us moved, and I could hear my own breathing rattling too loud inside my helmet. "There," she said, pointing to a narrow maintenance shaft set low in the wall. "It leads toward the docking ring. It will be tight." Tight was generous. I had to twist sideways to fit, one shoulder scraping metal, my tank hissing a warning about pressure that I chose not to think about. Asa went first, calling directions back to me over the comm, her voice steady even as the ship groaned and shifted around us like something alive and in pain. We came out into the docking corridor just as another impact rocked the hull, throwing sparks from a damaged conduit above our heads. The cutter was still there, lights flashing, airlock cycling open the moment we came into view, as if the ship itself was clearing our path rather than blocking it. We threw ourselves through the airlock and Asa slammed the release before the outer door had even fully closed. The cutter shuddered, tore free of the wreck, and for a moment we hung there, watching the second dawn drift slowly out of the collision path on its own. Thrusters I hadn't known it still had firing in short, careful bursts, steering itself clear of the debris like it had simply been waiting for the right moment to remember it could. Asa let out a breath and slid down against the wall of the cutter, staring at the wreck through the viewport.
"It saved itself,"
she said.
"After 2 centuries of doing nothing at all, the moment we were both inside it, it saved itself. And us. I didn't have an answer for that either."
I just sat down next to her and let my heart beat slow. "It saved you because you were with me," she said finally. "I think it has been waiting this whole time, not for a crown, not for the right family, but for someone from that bloodline to walk back through its door. And now that you have, I don't think it plans on letting either of us go easily." I looked past her, out at the ship drifting steady and gold against the dark, alive again after 200 years of silence. I still had copper wire waiting for me on a wreck 40 meters away, rent still due, and a business that couldn't run itself. None of that felt as urgent anymore. So, I asked her, "What happens now?" Asa managed something close to a smile, tired but real. "Now," she said, "you learn what it means to be a warden, and you make sure that ship never has to save itself alone again."